So we can take some questions.
Swamiji, I have a question about the 9 forms of goddesses that are celebrated.
Yes, okay.
Why these 9 forms? Why specifically these 9 forms?
Okay, that's a good question. So the idea of having 9 in any event is associated with the sanctity of the number 9 and the number 7. And the celebration, first of all, why this period is an interesting question. And so each one of these 9 aspects will illuminate aspects of nature. And what kind of nature are we talking about? Autumn is here. It's a period where in countries such as India and so on, all the weather changes to a calmer, more serene kind of atmosphere. And so globally, this is the time when the autumn equinox is celebrated. And Samhain in Ireland is one of those transitional celebrations. The number 9, of course, there are 9 planets which are registered in the ancient Indian system. But 9 itself is a sacred number because it's a compound of 3s. And those who have done the Enneagram will know how 3 by 3 by 3 becomes sacred, but for the sake of repetition, I'll tell again. We can describe the whole of our observable existence in 3 sets of 3. And so that 3 is, there are 3 states of consciousness to start with. We have to mention this since this is a philosophy class. These 3 states of consciousness are waking, dream, and dreamless sleep. Our so-called normal life is a waking life, where we have a sense of individuality, and we have a sense of other people opposed to that. And most of our registered life is dealing with that and learning how to view things in a much more stable and objective way, in a way that doesn't bring us pain. But that somehow merges into an area in an intermittent period that is gliding from the waking state into a sleep. This is called yoga nidra, a kind of semi-conscious state where we are completely aware, and yet in that awareness, there is no involvement. So that's all we know of is this waking state. That's all we know of is this mix and match scene that we call a dream, where we can have many, many egos, and every version of it is our own dreamer ego manifest in many different ways. But still time and space are there, causation is there. And then deep sleep, where we have a dress rehearsal for death. So that's the first 3 that summarizes the whole of this existence. And what we know as this existence, all these 3 states of consciousness, can be described in a feminine term, since every culture that we can think of will celebrate nature as a motherhood, the mother nature. Mother nature is a common reference everywhere. So what is called nature or Prakriti is a manifested form of the Absolute, and we find it as nature. Now, nature is extremely powerful. We'll come to that now. And so its power is seen to be divided, as it were, into 9 aspects. Second part of the compound of 9 will come in the fact that this manifestation comes as a projection on the one hand. It comes as a protecting field on the other, and an area of destruction on the other hand. Somebody recently, we were discussing the COVID virus, and somebody said to me, well, you know, you shouldn't travel and this and that and the other. I said, look, supposing I pray sincerely to the Divine Mother of the universe. I mention the Divine Mother since this is the period of time in which we worship her. And I said, then, supposing I pray to her for her protection, and protection of others. Now, this person said, a devotee, by the way, said, interestingly enough, oh, but don't you think the whole world has prayed for her? And don't you think, why are all these deaths and so on and so forth? Why is this misfortune? Didn't God provide this misfortune for us? And then how will he save you? So you see, I said, well, what we call this God as nature and make it feminine and say it's goddess is responsible not only for the projection, what is commonly theologically called creation, as well as destruction, both. We only like to see the beneficent side of things, but the other side of things, the destructive side of things, is a balancing power on the other side. We not only have birth, but we also have life, and we also have death. You can't cut it off at birth and life. It's convenient to do so. We fear death. But when we have faith, which is the antidote to fear, then we fear nothing. And in a dreamless sleep, there's nothing to fear because there's no second to fear. So these three aspects are what we can theologically call creation, preservation, and destruction. This is the other set of the three. The last set of the three will be in terms of the composition of what we see as nature. There are three evolutionary forces there. The whole of this universe is made up of these three items, and you know exactly what they are. These are gunas. And guna literally something that binds. Something that binds ourselves to the illusion that this is permanent, and it's not. Something that gives us the impression we will live forever and we won't. Something that tells us that all of this is unchanging and it's not, it's changing. If it wasn't for this kind of approach imposed on us by Mother Nature, then nature itself would not operate, since nature herself is comprised of these three things. So 3 states of consciousness, 3 operational aspects of God, and 3 forces that comprise that manifested aspect that we call nature. These 3 times 3 times 3, these 3 plus 3 plus 3, these 9 elements are the whole of our observable existence and more. Now, if we then see each day what aspect is showing, it's extremely interesting. And so I won't go through all of these aspects, all of these entities. You can see which ones they are. Besides, of course, they're all gone. But today is Saraswati's day. What is Saraswati? Saraswati means, and the last 3 days, by the way, are dedicated to these 3 aspects, Mahakali, Mahalakshmi, and Mahasaraswati. Saraswati is where we learn. So if you saw my thought today, I emphasize this point. Saraswati means the thing that flows, the thing that is huge and the thing that flows. Now, nature is in the feminine form, and so therefore, when we put nature as a masculine entity called Brahma, or in Christianity called God the Father in its Trinitarian form, then we'll put a feminine aspect of it, since, as we know, the active side of things is normally put in the feminine form. This comes out in the game of chess. The supreme entity, the king, sits there and doesn't move very much. He's allowed to move 1 square here and 1 square there. But the queen covers the entire board, the entire chessboard. The queen is everywhere. Nature is existence, and its existence is found everywhere, and it is highly dynamic, ever moving and ever pouring its grace everywhere. So therefore, in the Vedas, the Rig Veda describes this first srishti or projection as vak, word. That is, an ideation comes out to start with. And this vak, this word, is picked up by Neoplatonism. Platonists will call this nous or logos. And then the whole idea is that from an ideation, from an idea, from a mind, from its first expression, from a word, from a concept, the whole of the universe is derived in subtle forms of waves. These waves come to us then as the tangible universe that we see and that we experience. Science will also tell us that what we see is nothing more than waves. It looks different. It looks like individual divided points of things. Something called the corpuscular theory is there. But when you break it down, the peak of a wave is all we're observing. And underneath is a whole series of waves. And underneath that really is its unmanifested aspect, the quiet, still ocean. And that we call, in philosophy, in the Vedanta philosophy, we call it Brahman. Its manifestation we also call Brahman. Are there two Brahmans? No. The unmanifest Brahman, that which can never be perceived, that which has no moving parts, no evolution in time. And the manifested aspect that we call this manifested God or Ishvara, what we call Saguna Brahman, that has these gunas, these qualities. Creation, preservation, destruction, we can put it in this way. We can summarize it in a meditative kind of language as life, light, and love. And so this is where the Christian Trinitarian idea is extremely commensurate with the Hindu creative idea of a trinity. Both have a trinity. The only difference is things are put into a feminine form. And so there's much more gender equality about it. The ancient way of worshipping was always with a goddess. In very primitive religious culture, we find it's a goddess of fertility. But always the motherhood of God has been fully expressed. Only with the advent of Judeo-Christian theology do we have this emphasis on the patronistic system of a male. In ancient tribal communities in the Middle East, then the chief is a male. African cultures, the same thing. And so if the whole world would have to be something like a large tribe that has as the superior tribe a chosen people, those who follow the commandments of the commander-in-chief of the entire universe, the militant chief, the main king of the universe, the regal entity that militarily dominates, then it must be inevitably masculine. So in a male-dominated society, that's put forward, but it wasn't always like that. Archaeology tells us that actually the ancient Jewish people would have worshipped a mother goddess. So this mother goddess has disappeared from most of the cultures, the religious cultures. It is coming back. For example, in the Roman Catholic Church, there is this emphasis on the Marian movement. Knock in Ireland, Lourdes in Portugal, France, in Portugal, and probably more recently Medjugorje. Those who believe, some people believe that there are appearances of the Divine Mother. And our theology, Roman Catholic theology, prevents us from declaring this is a goddess, this is fully God in feminine form, the feminine aspects. But the only in the Hindu culture really has this aspect dominated and become a theological position and approach in its own right. The tantric system, the system of a technique of working your way through the maze, the warp and woof of the universe, And seeing this mother goddess is revived. It's revived in more modern times. More modern times means the advent of Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna now gives legitimacy and authenticity to this tantric system. And in this tantric system, we can then understand that what is required in this age, 20th, 21st century, more than any other thing, is not justice, not equality. It is not human rights issues and so on. It is love. And once you have this love dominating, nothing can combat it. This world is lacking in love. This world is lacking in mutual consideration, a spirit of generosity and service, a willingness to make the other person the primary concern rather than ourselves. Sharing a meal, the wish to eat the remnants and give away the main course, as opposed to eat the main course and give away the remnants. This selflessness embodied is the mother. Only with the mother's love, only the mother's love exhibits this level of self-sacrifice. There's no other human love that compares. And so if we declare God is love, we want to also declare that there is a repository area called hell. There were some Catholic nuns who came to see me some years ago now, when I was still in Blessington Street, when we were still housed there. And they wanted to create an interfaith organization in Port Leash. So they were interested enough to discuss various aspects of Hindu life, cultural life, and also to discuss the Vedanta philosophy, the philosophy of Hinduism. I'm not one much for the cultural aspects of these things, because if you, right now, this Navratri is celebrated in different regions in India in different ways. And so naturally, we are keen to follow the Bengali way because Swami Vivekananda was keen to do the Durga Puja at the newly found Ramakrishna Math, because he was seen to be unorthodox. How can monks who are traditionally supposed to beg their food, supposed to go away and meditate and wonder, how can they come into society and serve it with a spirit of love? How can they come down to the level of the people, as it were, instead of remaining on a high pedestal of holiness and serve their people? Another way of saying it is seeing God in the people and serving God in the people. How is this possible? And how can such a monk go across the seas, previously a taboo thing? And how can a monk reconcile all these other religious attitudes with this one central thing, this central, all-encompassing Vedanta, whose followers were Westerners, whose main follower, Sister Nivedita, we celebrate her birthday on Wednesday coming. And how is that possible? You have lost your Hinduism. So with all of that, he maintained strategically that he would do this Durga Puja. And of course, this Durga Puja being there, celebrated widely everywhere, became a great, great, great festival. And at that time, of course, the living Mother of the Universe was with us. Holy Mother Sharda Devi was discovered, as it were, and seen, oh, she herself is there. Imagine. So naturally, the Bengali aspect of this is the one which was and is part of the tradition. But in discussing these things with these nuns, they asked about, what about this karma? What about this reincarnation? I said, well, you have your hell. No, they said, we don't think anyone goes there. I said, that's good news, because You see, if you say God is love on the one hand, how can you have hell on the other? How can you say, I love you? You are my children, you are my child. In Jesus' talks, he says, when you ask your father for a piece of bread, he won't give you a stone that will crack and break your teeth. That's not love. So they said, well, we don't think anyone goes there. I said, well, you have purgatory anyway. No, we're not sure about that one either. So, all right. And you had, or used to have, this thing called limbo. That is, a child is born and innocently dies. Where will that child go? You only have the option of heaven. You only have the option of hell. Where will that child go? And Jesus, of course, said, in my Father's house, there are many mansions. And in the Hindu theology, there would be 7 such mansions, 7 worlds that you can go to in the afterlife. Whether it's 7 or 700, it makes no difference. It's the principle of the thing. So this mother's love does not incorporate hell. You make your own heaven and you make your own hell, and your heaven and hell is where you sit or where you stand, here and now. But what about nature? Is nature always kind? Is this divine mother always kind, always compassionate to her children? Yes. Are we all not her children? Yes, we are. But Mother Nature has laws and principles. And the principle of causation is the key one. This is called the law of karma. The law of karma states, along with physicists, that every action has an equal and opposite reaction, that nothing can ever be created or destroyed. It remains constant. But within that constancy, there are the pairs of opposites, ups and downs, left and right, masculine and feminine, electrons and positrons, or electrons and positrons, and electrons and protons also. There has to be a continuous tug of war. And so Hindu mythology is designed, taken from the Puranas. In this case, this whole description of the events of the coming of Durga, that is literally the fortress. This is assembled really to tell us that from time to time, an exaggeration takes place. From time to time, evil possesses the world. And the world in two senses. The individual world of your individual struggles, and the whole universe comes about like this. There has to be some inequality somewhere, otherwise you won't notice that there's a world at all. So the world is an asymmetric thing, and what keeps it going is the attempt to make it symmetrical. Asymmetry, symmetry, like the up and down, like a balance, or like a pendulum swinging from left to right, swinging all the time, oscillating. And nature puts in this principle that what goes up has to come down, and what goes down has to come out. And what is the cause of birth, if you look at things in a cyclical way, and repeating material here, you say, what is the cause of birth? Well, put it the other way, what is the cause of death? The prerequisite will have to be birth. And then if things are cyclical, what is the cause of birth? The prerequisite will have to be death. So in a conversation with this person about faith, I was saying, we are not frightened of death. The whole values are turned upside down. Swami Vivekananda gave it very clearly. He gave a list of priorities. What is the most meaningful and useful thing you can do for man? It is to show them a way to liberation. And in this way, our Vedanta Society and others doing work like this is the most charitable thing we could ever engage in. Showing people a way to freedom. This is a perpetual way, an enduring way, Second priority will be to give people an education, not only an education in the higher things, but an education in the lower things. What do we mean by the lower things? The normal everyday things. In common parlance and example, it is more important to teach a person to fish than to give them fish. And so in developing countries, we see this aspect, this great mistake. You give somebody something. No, teach them to be self-reliant, to be independent. Teach them to be their own person. Teach them to manifest this divinity, this potential from within. So education is the second most significant and important priority. Third one, yes, uplifting society, dealing with what is in front, seeing God there, and lifting somebody out of their poverty or their distress if possible. In developing countries, this is poverty, distress, material distress, physical distress. In Western countries, it is predominantly emotional, psychological distress. In both cases, we have a duty to lift a person up if we can, but it's the third priority, not the first, not the second. And what is the third one? The third one is, or at least the last one, I should say. So, teaching people about their own freedom, trying to, giving them clues toward it, being a catalyst toward it, urging them toward it, asserting that they have it already, giving them an education, uplifting them, and fourthly and lastly, save a life. Last is save a life. Why should this be the last priority? Because we don't think that death is the end. We think that death is a comma, not a full stop. It continues. We think in a cyclical way. And furthermore, at the fundamental level, at the source level, at the substantial level, I am neither born, nor am I die, nor will I die. I am the broadcasting station that remains the same, while all the radio transistors come and go. And so with these basic ideas, we can then conduct a more meaningful life. So in this life, we find that our priorities have shifted to secular values where saving a life is first, is top. Now coming back to my discussion, I remember my question was, supposing I pray to the Divine Mother to protect me fully and protect all those I come into contact with, then what does it matter if I go here or there? Obviously taking sensible precautions. And all of this really was around a proposed trip of mine to the UK, where I do the Kali Puja there and have done for the last 3 years at the request of devotees there. So they said, well, you see, everyone's praying to the Divine Mother and nothing's happening, or God and nothing's happening, and God imposed this. No, you have the wrong theology. And I don't believe in a God like that. I believe God is love. And that means that the mother will protect her children. That is, those who are loving, those who are tired of playing with toys, and those who orientate all their energy and attention to the mother, crying to the mother, mother, mother. And as long as we love, as long as we express that, as long as we in desperation cry out with tears in the eyes, mother, won't the mother come running? The mother is love. The mother is a whole embodiment of love. There is no higher love than a mother's love. A child runs out into traffic or into a danger, let's call it the lion's mouth in Vivekananda's language, and the mother will instantaneously sacrifice her own life to save the child. The male, the father may hesitate, the mother will never hesitate. So it's the mother love that is there for this age, and Sri Ramakrishna demonstrated it in his own life, in everything he did and in everything he taught. His language was unequivocal. It was clear. Every woman is the manifestation of this divine mother. We should take that very seriously. And so, in going about in a carriage, equivalent of today's car, he used to salute, make a salutation to three things. What was it? One was all religious institutions, whether it's a mosque, a temple, a church, because something sacred is occurring there. Secondly, at least in intention. Secondly, all inns. That means all pubs, all places where alcohol is served. It's a very strange thing. Why is that? Because it reminded him of the drunkenness of divine ecstasy, the drunkenness of the company, the divine company. He put himself in the position of a child and the mother being there. If we think of God as a mother, automatically we become a child. We have no option. And then life becomes a flow. It doesn't belong to us in a sense. All we have to do is agree to be nurtured and loved. And as long as we are doing that with the purity of mind and spirit, we are fully protected. Let us come to the image of Durga then. Oh, I didn't tell you what the third one was, but what I would say was, when I tell people about Ramakrishna's salutations, I say, of course, in Ireland, he would have something of an interesting time, since there is one of these pubs on every corner. But the third thing he would salute, all women, all women. Now his life demonstrates this, because he did not begin like this. He begins as a devotee of Rama. And then from Dakshinaswar, he becomes a devotee of Kali, wondering as an atheist in an atheistic mode, is this mother real? I would say not atheist, I would replace that actually with agnostic, an inquiring mind, a doubting mind. Are you real? Is what they say about you correct? All these poets and saints and so on who praise you to the highest, are they delusional? With that, his investigation starts. And he can say from his own experience that you have to have a yearning heart. The primary requisite for a devotee is tears in the eyes, a yearning, a lamenting. I have not seen you. Another day has passed, I have not seen you. Pouring your whole heart and soul. Will you not reveal yourself? And in this way, she reveals herself as she did to him. But you see, who is prepared to go that far? And in moments of time, we may feel like this. But then our doubt encroaches on us and our life. Our doubt about reality, because we take the reality to be our so-called world, our personal belonging, our personal struggle, our personal difficulties, our personal doubts and fears, our small episodes of antagonisms, of defenses, of trying to be successful, our sense of ownership, our sense of doership. All of this blocks our road to our avenue to freedom. So the mother's love is there, and 9 days are selected, and a whole season is really selected. The season of autumn is selected. And Ramakrishna's example, having first a woman guru, and then his personal worship of Sharada Devi, giving us the whole understanding that she is the Divine Mother as he saw her, not just symbolically, but literally. So all of this, and in this age of Kali Yuga, in this age, the last age of a cycle, where things are supposed to be as they are, the world wars and devastation and man's inhumanity to man and so on, and the COVID virus and all of this. This is the age in which we live from about 3102 BC. This is what we are in. But a new age dawned with Ramakrishna, giving us new hope and giving us a very simple and a very emotionally satisfying way. And that is be a child, and the mother, the highest love of all is a mother's love. So for this reason, this maternal aspect is brought out. So it's brought out in different ways. Firstly, it's brought out, it starts off with the mother as a simple virgin. And actually, it's the mother that is coming out as the first creative movement. And in order to understand these 9 aspects, it is just as well to follow the devotional life, the Shiva Shakti relationship laid out in the stories. That is Parvati, an incarnation of Sati and Shiva. And the whole idea is awakening Shiva, awakening the supremely auspicious one out of the sleep. And when you do that, you're creating a whole universe. And this universe is a good place because God made the world and saw that it was good. It's only we that see us as bad. And then unfolding this whole universe in a dynamic, exciting, dangerous, yet satisfying way, getting caught up in the frenzy of nature with a sense of love, a sense of devotion, and complete fearlessness. So how does she protect us? We find now in the Markandeya Purana, the story evolves and comes out as what we call the Chandi or Devi, the great hymn that Markandeya lays out, Devi Saptashmi. This great work lays out a story, but the story begins with misfortune. The story begins with a king having lost his kingdom, being spurned by his citizens, having lost everything, and a householder, a merchant, who also lost everything, and his family deserted him and spurned him. How to find a way out of this? So they seek counsel, and then evolves the story of how the deities, this is the normal story, by the way, in all the Puranas, that the deities, those who are auspicious to us, they get challenged. The forces of good get challenged by the forces of evil and become so powerful that they mobilize cosmic mind, representing to us as Brahma and the boons of Brahma. And how then to deal with this? And so all the forces of all the deities, including the supreme deities of Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, all these weapons are given to a manifested entity that is known as the great fortress, the great protector, Durga. All the weapons are in our favor. All the weapons are there to protect us against what? Against 2 principal evils. And these evils, Madhu, and so on, these evils are the lust and greed. These are the 2 central things. But what does that mean? Lust means an internal sense of dissatisfaction that ends for us in destruction of purity and ends in pain. Looks to be good at the outset, but results only in our own destruction. And the second thing is greed, a will or a want to repeat that endlessly and to get more power, and more, not necessarily objects, but more internal satisfactions where they begin from. In other words, taking this world as a supreme permanent entity with a sense of absolute reality involved in it, not understanding the shift of time and space, the ephemeral nature of nature itself. And so in order to protect us and to save us, this Durga comes out. And ultimately, it doesn't come out initially, comes out as Mahakali, but ultimately comes out as Durga facing Mahishasura, that is the demon of demons, conveniently transforming himself into a buffalo wild. If you're in Africa, you know the most dangerous animal in Africa is not the crocodile, is not the lion, it's the buffalo, particularly buffaloes in herds. Seemingly unconquerable, but initially lured into an attraction toward her, presenting herself as a beautiful, beautiful female with feminine wiles. This universe, what we call nature, collectively, from the highest to the lowest, has these three components of projecting, hiding, and revealing. The same mother that deludes us reveals to us. Why should she play such a cruel joke? It's not a joke on us. It's a play on herself with herself. If we understand that, then all our fear goes and we replace all our standard models of dealing with the world by a new approach. And that is to say, this is the divine sport. Once we take it in the spirit and play in this spirit and play with a sense of strength and feistiness, a sense of firmness, a sense of confidence, a sense of faith, a sense of optimism, a sense of joy, then we can enjoy the thrill of life and expect the next curveball with great, great joyful anticipation. Somebody who thinks like this, somebody who has this entrenched on their habit level, will make a prayer, not save me, save me, save me. Will make a prayer, please send your next curveball. I didn't get a curveball today. I wanted a curveball. Give me a challenge. Make life exciting and adventurous for me. It is purely a game. Today, children are so caught up in virtual games. And even in science, it has been suggested that we are living in a computer simulation. Now, this is not really a very feasible idea, since if you want the computer capacity to run the entire universe, you'll run out of bits. So it is really a fanciful idea that really falls foul of a lot of practical objections. But nonetheless, you see, if we think that this is somehow some kind of divine sport of waves that doesn't last very long in this particular area of experience, it lasts a mere 5 minutes. When you think how feeble and fragile human life is, it doesn't take much. Anybody facing a hanging or a firing squad or something of that nature, or a road accident, will know how sudden death can be. Anybody who's engaging in war can understand how life can be present in one moment, gone in the next, in an instant. And all of us, it will happen to us one way or the other. This birth, life, death syndrome is what we're experiencing for us who take it as a university with innumerable, endless opportunities to pass a university examination. And if not in this life, in the next life, But don't be blasé about it. It's much better to purchase a one-way ticket than a return ticket. So in discussing with these nuns, we discussed this idea and put it to them that if there's an objective called heaven, it seems to me a very trivial thing, a glorification of what we have on earth, a kind of holiday camp that we can go to, enjoy, spend our savings, and come back and resave. Surely it's best to take some kind of thing which is permanent. Even if we feel that this goal is daunting, we should at least make some efforts toward it as best we can within our capacity. And in the meantime, as we're doing this, to use this very nature and use it with a sense of joy, a sense of positivity, capturing this present moment as a precious thing, a precious treasure, unused, blank, and putting something useful into it and making an investment like that. This second, next second, next second, next second. What is the alternative? To rake up and endlessly go over the past. But the past is gone the instant I said it was gone. It's gone. No point in raking it up. No point in getting some psychological disturbance because something happened 5 minutes ago, 5 years ago, 50 years ago. It's gone. Can you change it? No. Do you have to live with the consequences? Yes, it's the law. Is there a possibility of avoiding it in the future? Absolutely. Put a different investment in this second, now, then the next, then the next, then the next. Do it by changing your outlook on life, shifting your values, revaluing everything, and then responding in a playful, sporting, loving, generous way. So this festival, this Navratri, exhibits all these different aspects of this divinity and culminates in the three central aspects, namely in granting great abundance in a preserving way, destroying all the negative things in this life, and giving us a sense of creativity, a sense of being, so that we can enjoy our existence and our consciousness, and also have a sense of eternal bliss. These are echoes, or these are echoed in these aspects of creation, preservation, and dissolution. And so the only difference is, of course, that we powerfully put this energy in a feminine gender, this energetic aspect, which has as its key, as its cornerstone, this great maternal love. Only a mother can protect us in this way, through love. You see, in all of these, in all the iconography, mostly anyway, in Hindu images, for example, we find that there is this contrast. There's a symbolism of weapons, and maybe, let's say, a vehicle. A vehicle, in this case, ultimately riding on a lion when it comes to the actual destruction of this Mahishashara. Ashara means the opposite of Surya. Surya, sun. Ashara, the thing that prevents shining. So that which prevents shining is called ignorance. And the final, with the trident, or the final stab in the heart, and the presence of the trident representing three gunas, amidst all of the weaponry and all of the actions portrayed, what do we see? A calm and loving face. Is not fierce at all. And always one hand in Abhaya Mudra. That means have no fear. I am protecting you, have no fear. Let me deal with this for you. So it's a wonderful season. This Chandi begins basically from this great story. And I think without this story, we don't have any meaning to this events in this Chandi. So it begins like this, just as the Bhagavad Gita begins with a story of depression and distress. And so I outlined what these were briefly. And they go to this great sage, Markandeya, and they said, so the merchant, whose name was Samadhi, and the noble king, Surata, they together approached this great sage. Midas was his name. Markandeya is relating the story. And after observing the etiquette, and so on and so forth, humble reverence and all the rest of it, Bhagvam Stva Maham Partam Icham Yekam Vadasvatat begins like that. So the king said, "Sir, I wish to ask you one thing. Be pleased to reply to it. Without the control of my intellect, that is the power of knowing, as compared to the power to feel or to will, my mind is afflicted, the heart to bear with sorrow. And though I have lost the kingdom, and though I know it, like an ignorant person, I have an attachment to all the paraphernalia." What we call life in a standard way is actually Trivial Pursuit. You know, there's a game, Trivial Pursuit. When we analyze it properly, we see it's pretty trivial. I could let go. And then this merchant, having been disowned by his children also, his wife and servants and all the rest of it, and forsaken by his own people, and he's still affectionate toward them. So how can I get rid of this? See, a noble-hearted sir is his turn. How is it that the mind is prone to love, even toward my worthless kinspeople, family? What can I do, since my mind does not become hard towards those unloving ones? So 2 issues, 2 questions. How can I remove my attachment for things that are superficial and fleeting? And how can I remove my affection, my attachments to people who really don't deserve my attachment? How can I, another way of putting it, how can I move on from a memory that involves humiliation or involves resentment or some incident like that that has left me with a feeling of emptiness? Now, this is a common question for all of us today, and the answer really lies in this aspect of that there is within us this huge, huge force, and all the weaponry that is required for dealing with nature in all its aspects is available fully to us and within us, and all the resources surround. And it lies primarily in shifting our thought, in directing the way we think. So, Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.